Hello and welcome to the Practice Marketing Power Hour, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I am your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today's focus, we're going to be talking about the top innovations in EMRs in 2025. And today we have a special guest, Mike Dwyer, one of the co-founders here of Prompt EMR, which is a great software solution that empowers PT owners to be more effective with their management and care delivery. And so in the past 3 years, Prompt has seen fantastic growth and has helped several thousands of clinics become more efficient and more profitable. So Mike, delighted to have you on with us.
Yeah, so excited. This is our second time doing it, I think a couple of years ago, and yeah, lots changed.
Yeah, a lot has changed, right? The world, it keeps moving. So let's dive right in. So something I'd wish to ask you last time we were on the podcast, which is kind of the history of Prompt there, kind of going back to 2017, and what made you think that the time was right to bring another EMR solution for PTs?
So yeah, we initially started out as a patient engagement tool. So Prompt actually, it stands for Personal Range of Motion PT. And essentially it was an app to track progress for a patient. I learned that patients don't finish care. 3 out of 10 patients finish their plan of care. Mm-hmm. And I thought part of that had to do with visibility into their care. So we launched that app in 2016. We tried to sell it and no one wanted to buy it. And so essentially we asked owners, we wanted to stay in the space. We knew that PT was valuable service and, in our opinion, undervalued. And we love the people. And so Adam and I, my partner, we just asked about 100 owners, what's top of mind in your business right now? And universally, people said 2 things. Margin compression, so you have revenue going down year over year, and you have the cost of doing business going up. And then staffing and retention, back then was a focus, and today it's like the number one thing on every call I'm on, is people are trying to hire more therapists. And we were looking at how do we help that? And it became clear that being the technology, the system of record, could not only help retention, but it could unlock a lot of margin. So we sat in clinics for about 2 years and tried to understand each user persona's issue. And yeah, it from our perspective, what was available in the market was compounding on the problems, not alleviating them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, congratulations on your growth there. So, there are different solutions out there, different EMRs, and everybody's kind of pushing things and looking at what is needed to help a practice move forward into the future, right? And there's a lot on practice owners' plate, from the front desk to obviously billing and insurance headaches and making sure that we can keep the therapist as efficient and full as possible and not kill them with documentation and all the headaches that come with having to, document for insurance and things like that. So for you, what was your approach with Prompt? What made it different? And what opportunities do you see when you from all that research that you did with clinics?
So what we try to do is maximize the revenue potential per revenue producer per day. So essentially keeping the schedule full, not kill clinicians on notes, and then have as little admin and billing members on the team and or have your billing admin members on the highest value tasks they could potentially be on. And that was our lens, and we didn't have any preconceived notion of how a system should look. We're technology and finance people. Mm-hmm. And so I think we had a fresh look on the space. We also saw that people didn't know everything their EMR practice management system could do for them. And I think part of that was support related. So from day one, literally half our company is in support. Wow. We have 140 people now, PTs, billers, EDI analysts, past practice owners, to support clinics. And we learned that if you're using 6 out of 10 features available to you, you'll love your EMR. If you're using less than that, you'll strongly dislike your EMR.
Interesting.
So we're proactively looking at it every day and trying to get people past that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense because I mean, being a practice owner myself in the past, and um, gosh, we made a transition from paper notes to the full on documentation and going all electronic back in the day. Um, and you're right. It's that there's such a learning curve with switching systems with for everybody in the office, right? From admin to clinicians and for the owners. And you're right in that if your team doesn't know how to leverage all the technology and automations and tools and things that you have within that system, then it's hard to make it. Yeah, it's hard to get the traction, right? So do you think that's one of the things that's helped you gain so much traction with in the rehab space? I mean, you guys have obviously grown significantly here in the last 5 years.
50% of our business is referral based, and
Wow.
that doesn't happen if you're not having one, success on the technology, and two, like working with us. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, for us, it's not like transactional. It's like, how do we help drive value in the practice? And selfishly, that eventually comes back to us if someone's doing really well.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And it's just like if you know what how business runs, right? So if you have an awesome clinic, if you're providing amazing service, but you're really good at nurturing your customer list and your patients, the word of mouth spreads, right? And that's one of the ways to grow your business is it really has to get into that position where it becomes more word of mouth. And then fuel it with marketing and everything else, but it has to have that word of mouth fundamental. So congratulations
The
on
way you operate your business, not just word of mouth, but like
yeah.
the way you operate your business 10 years ago, you can't operate the same way in this market environment and have the same level of success. So I think part of it is, our clinics having success, but also the market headwinds to push people to market.
Hmm.
Um, as especially over the past few years, driven after COVID. Um,
Yeah. So, obviously we've seen a lot of different headwinds there, as you mentioned, for clinics. What are some of the key challenges or pain points that you hear from practice owners about, EMRs, obviously things within the clinic, but what drives them to want to get more out of their EMR? More efficiency? Are they dealing, is it more like kind of the billing and those kind of things that they have to deal with that they're trying to find a better solution for? Like, I'm trying to see on your end, like, what do you hear, what do you see from practice owners out there when they start searching around for different EMRs?
they're looking, the whole point of technology is to do more with less. So they're certainly looking for efficiency. They're looking for recruiting tool. Like part of what I think is awesome is people will literally use prompt in an interview with a therapist or with the front office and like show it off and like, hey, this is going to be your day to day. But yeah, be those two things: staffing, and then how do we make more money with our technology?
Yeah.
It's not just a cost or a commodity. It's like I think people are really starting to look at technology as, if I pay you $1, am I able to return back $3, $5 off that spend? Where for you, like when it was going from paper to EMR, like how did you view it at that time? Was EMR a cost to you?
Yeah, that's
It
interesting.
is an investment.
Yeah, you're right. It was one of those things like we were looking at it to be more efficient, especially from a documentation standpoint, and like how can we fax back out to doctors and keep things better tracked with billing and collections. So, we did look at it from a efficiency, automation, but you're right in that, kind of the old way of looking at things was, you put these things in, you kind of have to do it. Is it an expense? Just kind of like marketing. Oh, it was an expense. Right? Yeah, but I think like you said, practice owners, a big, especially new ones coming into the market, new practice owners, like they have they have more of that kind of business mindset, right? They're looking at if I want to give great care, I've got to run the business part of it better, right? And as you mentioned there, it's especially with today's headwinds, we all know that we have to become more efficient, right? We have to lean our business as best as we can, and automation is the key to that, right? Because the number
You
one
also have
cost.
to grow. It's like we did a study that was interesting of like why therapists left are leaving the industry. We had 2,500 therapists complete the survey, and it wasn't money initially. So from 25 to 35, it was lack of career progression.
Mm.
And it's not just being efficient. It's like if you're not growing as a business and able to provide more opportunity to your people, they're likely not going to stay with you
Hmm.
for long.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Great point. And so, yeah, I mean, there's so much to that part of it, right? Growing your team, giving them opportunities, but everybody wants to be part of a winning team, right? So if you're just kind of status quo, then or declining, right? Then you start to have people jump ship, right? Especially the good ones, right? So I like how you're. That's a very interesting survey that you guys did to get that information. And so obviously there's a lot of stuff that you guys are innovating on and working on, but what prompt feature or solution would you say gets you the most excited as the co-founder?
I would say the stuff we're doing to keep the schedule full. So I started this as a patient, and patient engagement to me, like if you're not wowing your patients and creating a differentiated solution for them, like they're gonna go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So our texts and emails of saying like, "Hey, you have a 10 a.m. open tomorrow at the clinic. Would you like the time?" And it just being filled is awesome. Um, Also, from the clinical standpoint, our intake component has gotten a lot better over the past, I would say, 6 months. Um, Essentially, it's AI powered and it asks more pointed questions depending on who you are as an individual.
Mm.
So if you're a construction worker, it's going to start asking you dynamic questions to your daily living as a construction worker, your potential home responsibilities,
Mm.
and then pre-fill so much of the note. So roughly 60% of the note we're pre-filling with assessment, long-term goals, subjective. We're trying to create more of a review-based note.
That's awesome. Before they even come in the clinic, right?
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, that saves a lot of time. And plus, you could be better prepared as a clinician, right? If you have all that information that's already been done by
It
the
lets you
patient.
get right into treatment versus
Yeah.
having, potentially not being able to help the person that day.
Yeah.
Uh,
We all know that's key, especially with, patient drop off and things like that. If you
and get
can't,
buy-in immediately.
yeah, if you got to get that buy-in immediately from the patient. Now, I love that. And so, again, that's one of your favorites there. What are some of the top innovations that you're seeing in the EMR space?
I'm not just going to speak for Prompt, but like more globally, is EMRs are systems of record. And I think what most EMRs, including Prompt, are trying to do is guide users to make the best possible decisions. So, I mean, we have millions of visits in our system, millions of claims. It's how do we influence better decision making real time?
Mhm.
So, if I'm a clinician and I have a potential rotator cuff patient in front of me, like, what is the best optimal protocol for this individual? If I'm a biller and I'm working a claim, like what is the best action I can take on this claim to have the best possible result?
Mhm.
Um, Not all of that's AI. Like a lot of it's just if then statements and business logic.
Mhm.
But that's what excites me the most is like, yeah, how do we drive better decisions real time?
That's awesome. I mean, that's been for us too, like from the marketing space, like the practice promotions, that's been a big thing for us over the last couple of years is that data driven decision. So if, for us, it's like, marketing clarity. So in your space too, everything else around operations, right? So from an operations standpoint, if you have the right data and your situation too is that you have all this data from other clinics, like what's the best practices, and so you don't have to go figure it out as much. You've got like best practices from all over the country, right? And then you could bring that into your clinic, and I think that's just key. What you just said is that giving you the right information to make the right decision for your practice, right? And that's what's going to move you forward. Love it, love it. And so for you, obviously you've been doing a lot with AI, making that part of your system. And so I'm curious, how has AI changed the way that Prompt operates, and how you're seeing that impact PTs organize their practice?
I think internally, just for our staff, we've really adopted it. So across every department in Prompt, we're using it in some way.
Mhm.
Um, for tracking data, for making better decisions, yeah, etc. And then it's changed our thinking in terms of how we build product. So AI is just moving at such a fast clip, and we've been able to. We have a full in-house team, and right now, every 6 days, we're pushing out features
Wow.
behind it, and it's affecting every admin, clinical, billing, even the patient experience.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
it's amazing. And I mean, it's just like blinding speed of the technology that's getting launched, and every day something new or something better from it. Same for us here at Practice Promotions. We've incorporated all over the place. We actually have an AI ambassador team. So basically, like leaders of each department, they get together and they share what they're doing with AI in their particular department, and so others learn from that. And I think that's a great thing for any business now to learn about how can they incorporate more AI into their business, into their practice. And that's like you can't just figure it all out yourself.
artificial.
Yeah.
We do a similar thing. We have our AI team does a town hall every week on a specific use case.
Do you want more freedom in your clinic? Then you need to work on your business, not just in it. The top practice owners know that they need a marketing system that consistently attracts patients from the internet. And at Practice Promotions, we've helped hundreds of practice owners skyrocket to the top of Google and get more new patients from online. Go to practicepromotions.net/kit to get our free practice marketing sample kit. It includes all our digital marketing tips and tricks that will get you new patients from Google. That's practicepromotions.net/kit, KIT, for a free marketing kit. And now back to the show.
How people are just using it in different ways for different things, right? Everything from, like you said, operations to marketing, to, you name it, right? So, and you just mentioned a little bit there about how the intake process with AI has improved the way that we can get the information from the patient to better our documentation. What else are you seeing with, or you're leveraging AI with, like anything from the claims or billing side of things?
Yeah, it's how do you prevent a denial? So we actually originally started Prompt in a billing office. And the key to success in billing is how do you have as high clean claim rate as humanly possible?
Mhm.
Meaning on the first submit, are you getting paid correctly the first time? And quite a bit of the rule engine on the front end is driven by analyzing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of claims for specific payers and pointing out, hey, if you submit this claim, XYZ parts of this claim is going to result in an issue. Do you want to change it? So, yeah, and then on denials, like if we do have an issue, what is the best way to solve this issue? And it's just going through. AI has made it so you can take very large data sets and draw insights quicker.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's how we're initially leveraging it.
That's
Is
amazing. I wish I had that back in the day when I was running the practice, because I mean, I've been there when you had so much errors and denials that it can sink the ship pretty quick. So you're right that the clean claims going out is what saves the day. Make sure you get your cash flow coming in, and to have, sometimes they're a little complicated, right? So to have that guide for your in-house biller to make sure their claims.
also for the clinician. Like it's a
True.
billing's a team
Yeah.
sport. Like if the clinician is billing appropriately, billing maximally, and justifying it, that helps you downstream as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, good point there. I love that. And so for you, obviously you're dealing with a lot of practice owners out there. I'm sure you deal with it too. As I talk to practice owners, sometimes they feel like they're very good at treating. They're in their world, and they say like all this organization stuff really isn't my strong suit. How have you like helped them change their mindset or get the right kind of help towards that?
I always tell people to like live the role. So live in your front desk for a day,
Mm,
live with your biller for a day, see the patient experience for a day, and it can open your eyes to what can be improved. And that may not always be an EMR change. Like it may be changing a few steps of the process where someone's spending 2 hours on something when they could really be spending 15 minutes. Um, But yeah, you don't need to be an expert. If you sit there for a minute and you see someone's on the phone for 3 hours not doing anything, like there's probably room for opportunity.
Yeah, go look, right? Yeah, go
Yeah.
observe. That's such a good point. I remember we were having an issue with our billing in our practice, and it just the office manager had been making a lot of mistakes, and we didn't realize it, right? And then it took some going in there and figuring it out, and we were able to get it turned around. But I remember sitting there and just kind of learning how the billing process was happening, because I was more hands off as a practice owner from the billing aspect, just wondering, okay, obviously claims are going out, money's coming in, we have to kind of resubmit these claims and everything. But you're so right. Like, once I started to go in and actually be there and look and understand like the process that was happening, it didn't take long. Like you said, a day or so. You just had a much better reality on it, right? And then it's like,
A lot of good performances and what's not, like 30% of our business is startups. Like we try to really push them to don't outsource your billing day one. Like when you have 5-10 patients a week, learn it.
yeah,
Because when you do have someone else, whether that's a staff member or you outsource it to a firm, you'll know what good looks like.
yeah. I remember the first time, we started up our practice, my wife and she would drive home and I would fill out, all the billing on the laptop on the way home in the car. And so, yeah, but you learn it, right? You learn it, you understand what's supposed to happen. And it's one of those things, as a practice owner, you have to know how to bill, to some degree, right? So
Yeah, it's just networking. It's
Yeah.
like, going to shows like PPS, CSM. There's so many Facebook groups online of practice owners talking about the successes, the failures. Like, there's just a lot of resource out there that wants to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Love it. And so, I'm curious on your end, as you talk to practice owners, it can be a heavy lift when, you're starting to think about, whatever EMR I'm with, it's not really, achieving some things. I'm having some issues over here, whatever it may be for them. But it's an effort to change, right? It's an effort to change there into something new, something different, even if you like the look of it, right? So how does Prompt make that process easier?
So first off, it's getting team buy-in. Like, the juice has to be worth the squeeze. Like, every user has to benefit. The patient, the biller, the owner, the clinician, the front office. Like, everyone's got to move forward. And it's not necessarily changing every process, but it's changing the right processes, which we help clinics think through. So as I said, support's our number one department. Each client coming to Prompt gets assigned 3 representatives to work with them. A clinician, a biller, and then an EDI analyst, which is essentially setting them up with payers. But they're thinking through process change alongside the clinic. And then the data transfer and everything else we handle largely. So the process is usually 4 to 8 weeks, and it's typically, for a standard user, 3 to 4 hours of training.
Yeah.
It's not insurmountable, but it does take work, and like, it's a big decision.
Yeah. That's a good point, because I think you have to you got the juice for the squeeze. I love that, the way that you said that, and it does make a lot of sense, because it has to be, is that change going to make the biggest difference for your practice? In a lot of cases, it is, right? And so, but you have to go into it with a mentality that it's going to be a planning. You have to plan it, execution of it, right? And I think, like you said, you got to get your team buy-in that this is the right direction to go. So
Even if they're making the decision, like, they have to be a part of the process. Because whether you at a Prompt or somewhere else, like, change is hard and you're going to have a bad day.
yeah,
And if you don't, see the light of why you made that decision, yeah, you can get some blowback as an owner.
yeah, got to get the buy-in, right? And so for you, we all know that in today's healthcare economy, right, finance is a really hot button. The challenge on reimbursements, the margins, right, that the clinic's having to work with. So I know that, like, with EMRs, the goal is to really get the data, the metrics, to make those right decisions. From the Prompt standpoint, like, how do you have your metrics and analytics so that the clinicians are really able to look at their finance component of it and then make decisions from that.
Yeah, the key to data is accuracy, because if it's not accurate and you don't trust it, you're not going to use it. And two, it's speed of access. So we control from patient creation through to their last bill. It's our data set. It's no bolt-on integration. So the data is accurate, and you're able to pull it very quickly. And something we've done over the past couple of years is spot like, hey, this is becoming a problem. You should look at this. We either see people look at no data or they look at too much data. We're trying to have you focus on the right data at the right time. So yeah, it's always an evolving target, but
yeah, I love that though, because it is. I come across the same thing, because on the marketing side, we're obviously dealing with a lot of metrics and data too from the marketing aspect. And yeah, you either have a practice owner that's barely paying attention to anything that's going on metric wise, and then you have the other side where it's like they're trying to dissect every little metric that's coming in. It's like, wait, it's overkill, right? So like you say, I love that you're trying to hone them into like what matters most from a metric standpoint, because that's what you need. Information that helps you make the right decision for your practice. I guess, what would you say are some of the levers that Prompt helps or EMRs help the practice owner look at to improve their finances?
so I think on the front end, it's what is your capacity utilization? Like how much available treatment time did you have versus how was your team scheduled against that versus what actual treatment time occurred? We find most teams are at 80% billable on the week, meaning out of 100 hours, you're billing 80. You really need to be at 90 to 95%, in our opinion, to really hit a solid level of profitability. And then in terms of billing and claims, like it's for each hour of treatment, are the units matching how many hours you have on the billables? And then what is your clean claim rate percentage, which should really be over 95% in any given market. I mean, I can go through metrics and all of that, but like are you scheduling optimally? Are you billing correctly from the therapist side? And are you getting paid the first submit correctly?
Awesome. And so the one thing I really was fascinated with there was how you were saying this keeping the schedule full, right? So basically, if you have 100 hours in the week and you're only getting 80 billable hours, you're missing out on 20% basically of productivity, right? And
You're still probably paying your therapist for that vacant time,
yeah.
typically.
So what are some of the things that you've looked at from the EMR standpoint to help with that?
Well, it's most clinics, new patients is definitely needed for practice, but typically they don't need as many new patients as they think. So the stat that we look at is out of your entire caseload, say they're supposed to come in 2 times a week for the next 6 weeks across the board. Are they scheduled that way? And most of the time they're not. So tooting like our own horn, we have a tool that says Neil Trickett is under schedule by 4 visits for the next 2 weeks, and the system just proactively reaches out to you so you can schedule to that frequency. But even if you're not using Prompt, it tends to be low-hanging fruit of setting up for each and every patient, what's their prescribed amount, what's their scheduled amount. And usually you'll see a big differential.
Yeah. I think that, that's what I saw too from like practices that really crushed it was they had very good training on their front desk team, and they had the right front desk people that were good at that part, like seeing how many prescribed visits that they were supposed to have, looking ahead, making sure that those patients were coming in for those. If the patient canceled, they were trying to make it up. And so like that was a very manual way of doing it, but like the ones that were good at controlling that were the ones that kept a very high percentage of arrivals of patients coming in. And so now I think with what you've been able to develop is from the more automation part of that, right? So being able to have it trigger first knowing like, hey, this person has not come in for their prescribed number of visits, or they're going to be behind, and then having the ability to like automatically reach out, right, and do some of that action. That's awesome.
It's feature. Patients love it because they can control their care. And the stat that's interesting, even if you're not using Prompt, with online scheduling, if a patient books the visit themselves, the cancel no-show rate is 40% less than if your team books the visit.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, we're so used to online, like booking restaurants or whatever, right, through our phones. I think that is just one area that a lot of, I see it improving, but I still see a lot of like medical providers being a little bit behind the curve when it comes to that kind of automation. But I do see that improving, and that's awesome to hear that you have those kind of solutions, because I think as a consumer, as a patient, you want that ability, like, hey, I got some conflict that came up, but I'd love to reschedule. I don't have time to like call the front desk. I can get through to somebody, then I got to call them back. But if you could just do it right there through your phone, and you see a slot open, the next day at a time, you go ahead and book it, right? That's fantastic.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And so, kind of coming up this year, what are some of the things that Prompt's kind of pushing or working towards innovation wise?
Innovation wise, it's how do we capture every workflow a clinic goes through under Prompt? So a big piece of what we're working on this year is the people management, HR, payroll side. We brought a company called Onus One, which is variable compensation for clinicians, front office, billers. That's a big focus, and then it's just how do we increase schedule utilization? How do we reduce admin and billing needs across the entire platform? I mean, it's never done.
No. So can you tell me a little bit more about the system for the variable compensation? Like how's that look?
Yeah, so essentially you can set any risk tolerance for any user. So what most teams set is 80% is base salary, 20% is variable compensation off whatever metric you want. So if you're trying to optimize for units per visit or visits per week, you can set a threshold of what's normal, and then anything above that is would be the variable comp is one example.
That's great.
But it's been very interesting of how it changes behavior and ownership in the clinic. Like every single clinic that's doing it, they're not cheering when they have a cancel. It's like they're trying to refill that slot. They're trying to reach out to their patient list. And every other medical vertical does it, like orthopedic surgeons, dentists, vets.
Yeah. I've had friends, and this was years ago. Like I had friends who had practices, and they were like starting that out. That was something like pretty foreign in the PT space, right? Was providing compensation for performance, and
everyone wants to make $100K, Neil, but
I know
you can actually create a path with it.
Exactly, right. And so that's the thing too. Is like, would you rather pay a very high performing PT who always has their schedules full? They're actually getting patients to refer others to you. You want to keep those people, and they want to get like, you're not going to pay them exactly the same as a PT who's kind of like doing okay, right? Has more cancellations and stuff. Like, pay the guy or the girl more if they're a high performer, right? And it's great that you're looking at that from a systematic standpoint, because that could take a lot of the headache out of it for a practice owner trying to figure out that stuff. But if they can say, hey, yeah, and then it's probably good for the individual too, because then they can track it better themselves and say, hey, I come on track to make this much bonus this month. Love it.
What's interesting is people start with the lowest risk plan, so like an 80-20 or a 90-10, but then over time they start taking more risk because their upside is higher if the plan is structured correctly.
Yeah, I think that's such an awesome thing for retention, but also for attracting top clinicians, right? Because top clinicians are going to go where they know that they can get paid better, and you can pay better if you have them performing better, right? So that just makes total sense. I love that you guys are looking at that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, my wife, she's a speech therapist. She has 6 figures of debt. Like, for the past few years, she's been grinding 2 jobs, and like, there's a lot of people like that in this
Mhm.
space that have debt. They're trying to make more money, and you can create a path for them to make more.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the clinics that are adaptable, they innovate in terms of looking at compensation models for their clinicians are the ones that are going to succeed because it's a fight for talent now, and it's only going to get worse in the future, right? So you have to have the ability to attract top talent to you, retain them, and then also, give them the ability to, have that performance-based compensation. I love that philosophy. Fantastic. So, Mike, you gave us some great insights here into the direction of EMRs. Now, tons of stuff happening. Obviously, lots of stuff coming up here in the future. For a clinician out there, as they're looking at how can they make their EMR, work better, or looking at the future, any final words of advice for our audience?
Even if you're not on Prompt or thinking of switching your EMR, I would really get to know the system. And to my point earlier of if you're using more than half of your system, you'll do better with it. Like, there's probably quite a bit of low-hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And then we already kind of said it, but like, understanding what your team is going through may open your eyes to, hey, just because we've done something the same way for 10 years doesn't mean it's the right way to do things.
Mm-hmm. Great advice there. Love that.
I would say just eyes wide open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so go check it out, see what can be, listen, right? See what your team says about how to make things, flow better, see what capabilities you have within your EMR to help you get there, and have some time carved out to do that, right? To look, don't just treat nonstop, right? You got to be able to get in there and operate and look. So great words of advice, Mike. Thanks for being on, sharing your wisdom with us, and congratulations on all your success there with Prompt. I wish you guys much success into the future.
Thanks, same to you, and really appreciate having me.
Awesome. Thank you. And so to all listeners out there, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast as well as our YouTube channel. Tons of great advice for you there. Don't forget to go to practicepromotions.net. Lots of free downloads for you, marketing tips on how to grow your practice. This is Neil Trickett from the Practice Marketing Podcast and Practice Promotions, wishing you much success in your practice.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it as well. Just scroll down to ratings and review on your phone and click Write a Review. Thanks.